Councils, especially those in London, are choosing to tackle a shortage of affordable social housing by investing in accommodation in other parts of the country. In some cases, people have been asked to relocate up to 60 miles away. But the practice has come under scrutiny after Redbridge Council outbid another local authority who also wanted the accommodation to meet their social housing needs.
Thank you very much, Ben. We've got lots more still to come in the next hour before 11. Lots of you getting in touch with us this morning about our report on social housing and how many people are having to take up social housing away from relatives and families. Do get in touch with us with your thoughts on that and everything else that we're talking about. We will be talking more about that in just a few moments. The hashtag, don't forget, is Victoria Live, and if you text, you will be charged at the standard network rate. As rents continue to rise, one borough in the capital is tackling the shortage of affordable accommodation by moving families to cheaper areas of the country. But the decision to relocate people, sometimes up to 60 miles from their community, has been a controversial one because one council, Redbridge, outbid the local authority in Canterbury, which also wanted the accommodation to meet its own social housing needs. With the hard choice of either hostel accommodation in the capital or a home in Kent, has the housing crisis got so bad that families are being forced out of London? Here are just two families' stories. The capital, Redbridge, is tackling the shortage of affordable accommodation by moving families to cheaper areas of the country. Families are now facing the choice of either a hostel or cramped flats, or more room in other counties, miles from family and friends. Peter Whittlesey reports.
When this baby's awake, then she wakes the other ones. So, which is not, you know, everybody understands baby.
Here we go. It's an infestation of cockroaches. People have rocked the cooker and underneath the cockroaches have come out. We've seen them running up the wall. They've been in the bathroom.
In the morning, we find there's mouse poo on although it's been cleaned completely, and there's mouse poo all over the table.
Including the baby, there's 7. This is like a prison. In fact, the prison would probably have more space. And the way that it works is really difficult, I'm not going to lie. It's basically, we're on top of each other.
I had to move in with my parents again when I fell pregnant, because even though I worked a 40-hour week and my partner worked as well, we still couldn't afford the rent and baby at the same time. No, not even close.
Eden, get out the bathroom, I want to use it.
A family of 7 living in one room. This is emergency accommodation paid for by the London Borough of Redbridge.
I don't want rubber bits on my bed, please.
It costs the council £350 a week for the Colemans to stay in this private hostel.
Not everybody can be a high flyer and on £120,000 a year. There's going to be some people on lower incomes. We're on a lower income because we went for self-employment. We tried to run our own business to get ourselves out of poverty. It worked, and then the government changed the rules on the benefits. And what happened is our customers who were heavily benefit dependent, they stopped coming, and then we got into trouble.
How did you end up in these circumstances?
I fell into arrears. Basically, we went to the council and asked for help, and they said that we'd made ourselves intentionally homeless and we should have fought to stay, even though we know we couldn't afford to stay there. And then basically we went to social services, which it gave on instructions, and they have put us here.
I have to use the water to wash this because I can't use any other water.
They do everything in the room, even cook. But living here for the last 4 months has been a struggle.
I have no self-respect when it comes to being in here. I haven't even told my parents about what's going on. I haven't told my friends, I've told nobody. I just won't tell anyone. But I fight through every day. Every day is a fight.
But you're actually at work. You both work.
Yeah.
But you can't afford to live in London. That's why you've ended up in benefits and in this hostel.
Yeah. Yeah. We're on working tax credits and child benefit and housing benefit because, yeah, the business wasn't doing so well because our own customers can't afford it. So if the customers can't afford it, then we struggle.
But it's not just families who can't afford the rents in the capital. Local authorities in London can't either.
It's a nice new start.
That's why Redbridge Council is moving people out of temporary accommodation into houses.
Yeah, it was a living room come dining room, which is not too bad really. Got a really nice kitchen, I must say.
The only issue is the homes aren't in the capital. They're 60 miles away in Kent.
Bad side is I'm now away from my family. My family can't really get to me because they don't drive that much or anything like that one. So for them, it's going to be hard for them to get to me. And the cost of trying to get backwards and forwards is going to be mental. And the fact now that I haven't got a job because I've had to give it up to come here, it also means now that I'm going to be even more out of pocket to a degree.
Now, you're working in London.
Was.
Yeah, but most people think it's people on housing benefit are just those people out of work, but that's not the case, is it? It's because it's so expensive that...
Yeah. I mean, they put us in a one-bedroom little place between all four of us for over a year, and the rent is, I think it was like 650, 700 quid or something like that. That we was getting help with the housing and all that one, but yeah, I mean, to do it on my own would have been no way.
The estate is at the former Howe Barracks in Canterbury. The local council has 2,500 people on its housing waiting list, so wanted the homes. But the London Borough of Redbridge outbid them. That prompted James McCrossan, who says he's been priced out of the local area, to set up a petition.
No, I know obviously every borough in London, every sort of council around the country have all got people on their housing lists, and they're all struggling in their own areas to house people that are really, really desperate for housing. And the petition was there to set up to say it wasn't just a local thing. Yes, this was about the Howe Barracks in Canterbury, and that the London Borough of Redbridge have succeeded in buying the lease and buying the land for it. But then that's preventing 2,500 people potentially moving into the 140 something odd houses that are on that land.
Despite the opposition, housing people in Canterbury makes sense for the borough of Redbridge because it's cheaper than temporary accommodation in London, and that's unlikely to change.
There's a high likelihood that there will be more what we call customer migration, so housing benefit customers will move to cheaper areas, purely because of the nature of the rental market. Rents keep going up. Local housing allowance rates, which are what housing benefit is founded on for private tenants, are remaining frozen, so the gap's getting bigger.
And that gap is biggest in London. The Borough of Redbridge says there's a chronic shortage of affordable housing, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to secure enough local supply.
Yeah, don't rush down.
But for Gail Oshman, who has MS and her son, the controversial decision to move people out of area has benefited them.
I had to turn around and think of me and my child and turn around and say yes, while we're still here.
And now you have a house compared with a room.
Yes, yes. We have stairs, and we have doors, we have windows. Look around. All I see is greenery. Listen, do you hear traffic? I don't. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Oh, it's great. I mean, we just came out of B&B. It was 2 single beds, a little row to walk in between them to get into bed, and like a shelf where we had the TV, and that was it.
No kitchen like this?
No kitchen, it was communal. There was also a communal bathroom, so we didn't have our own, en-suites or anything like that.
Acquiring 147 homes in Canterbury won't solve Redbridge's social housing crisis.
I saw them, they were in the cot.
This family won't be moved to Kent, so the pressures of living in one room continue.
We've been here for so long now, we sort of see the signs of when we need space, and I'll go for a walk, or we'll watch some television, or we play video, but there is no privacy, there is nowhere around.
Some people might say, you got yourself into this situation, why should the state help you?
I did get myself into the situation somewhat, but I wasn't 100% responsible. You don't deliberately be poor. You don't deliberately throw your business down the toilet. So in that respect, I reject that.
You can hear the mice crawling around and you wonder, sometimes I have her sleep next to me because I'm wondering, is there going to be cockroaches crawling around in her toys and crawling on her when she's sleeping? And I'm wondering if that's how she got sick.
But the Borough of Redbridge says housing enforcement officers have carried out full unannounced inspections at the hostel, which found no problems which would present an imminent risk to health and safety of the occupants.
It's like an epidemic, and it's for people from all backgrounds. It's not just the lower end anymore. It's everyone's getting caught in this property scandal, and we've got neighbours that work long hours. We've got people that don't work. We've got immigrants. We've got every background. So you can't say it's a particular class of person or a particular type of person, because everybody seems to be caught in this, and it's terrible because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing, it's demeaning, and there's no end to it.
Well, in the next hour, we will hear live from Mark Coleman, who you just saw, and a woman who refused to leave London for a home in Canterbury. Lots of you getting in touch already on this. Stuart has tweeted, rents are rising everywhere, not just in London. It is a failure of successive governments to tackle the housing problem. An anonymous texter, we were forced out of London in 1965 to find a home in Northampton, not just due to high rents, but there was nowhere to live. Jay has emailed, it is now fact that London is being deliberately turned into a ghetto for the uber-rich. Social cleansing to allow gentrification is rife and appears to be condoned by the authorities. And Chris has emailed, the selling of council estates in London to private developers, supposedly to create more housing, is farcical. Gentrification of areas should be called exactly what it is, social cleansing. And Soy Chica has tweeted, we all face pest problems. It is our responsibility to ensure known risks are eliminated. Stop playing the victim, be responsible. Do keep on getting in touch. We'll be talking more about that at 10:10. OK, well, let's hear more from three more people who have experience of what you've just seen in that film. Mark Coleman is with us. He was in the film. He's currently living in a hostel in Ilford where a family of 7 are sharing one room. Sharon Kaur was offered a place in Canterbury, then she was refused. She's been living in a hostel in London. And Roger Harding is from the homeless charity Shelter. Thank you all for joining us. Mark, we've seen you in our film on this situation. For you now, going forward, do you have a sort of any indication of what might happen?
Absolutely done. One of the failures of the council is lack of communication. We're not told, we don't even know officially our status or how long we're likely to be there. We also don't know whether we're likely to be moved at any time. The property, as you've probably seen, is substandard. We may get moved to another one equally as substandard. We just don't know, living day for day.
You want to stay put where you are? You don't want to move out the area?
I want to stay in Redbridge because I'm local to that area. I don't want to be in Manchester, Birmingham or, you know, and it doesn't solve the problem putting me in a hostel in Birmingham. It doesn't solve the problem. It's just I'm still in the same circumstances, but in a strange area. And then, of course, if I move, I have to give up the work.
Sharon, what's your situation? You were offered a place away from where you're living in Canterbury, but you said no. Why? Sorry, you didn't say no. You were offered one, but then it was taken away.
It was because of our circumstances.
But you were prepared to move away from your area?
I was, because I thought it'd be a new start for me and my family.
And so what's the situation for you now?
We're currently in a hostel in 1 bedroom.
And how many of you are in that 1 bedroom?
5 of us, me, my husband and my 3 children.
And how long have you been in that situation?
Roughly 11 months.
How did you end up in that?
Well, it was basically because our landlord, where we were previously, decided to put the rent up and we couldn't afford it. So then we were made homeless.
And what's it like living in that environment?
It's not healthy. It's like living in...
Describe it.
It's like living in hell.
So what happens in that room? We were seeing Mark's family, they do everything in the meal, including cooking. Is it the same for you?
Similar circumstances. apart from the cooking, because that's communal, but where we live, there's a refuge recycling centre at the back, and there's flies and all sorts of mess, and the people there are not very hygienic. It's a communal kitchen, communal bathroom, and my children are just suffocating basically because we're all in one room.
Is it important to you? I mean, obviously, as we said, you were prepared to move to Canterbury, but then that situation changed. Are you happy to move away in order to get better accommodation? Is that more important to you than where you actually are?
Well, yes, because, you know, I just want what's best for me and my children and my husband. And, you know, if an opportunity came up outside of London, then I would be prepared to accept, because where we are now is not good.
Roger, you're with the homeless charity shelter. What do you think of this idea of councils and local areas getting accommodation elsewhere so that they can offer more accommodation to people in their area who currently don't have the accommodation they need?
Well, we're certainly seeing a lot more of it up and down the country, but particularly in London. Our services see a lot of similar instances to Mark and Sharon's, of people either when they're first homeless being moved out of the borough, or when they're offered somewhere more permanent, that being out of the borough. I mean, that can be an okay solution. As Sharon says, some families want to move away and get a new start, but for others, it doesn't work out because it moves them away from jobs, from family, from caring situations, sometimes from medical treatment or other things that families are trying to have. And it's just another instance, and a particularly stark instance, of our wider housing crisis that's affecting people up and down the income scale and in a variety of different situations. And some councils could be better in how, clearly they could be more sensitive in how they work with people, but also in turn feel for councils because they've had their budgets cut by around 25%. In this area. So it'd be great to see the councils acting a little bit more sensitively, but it'd also be good to see national government giving them a little bit more funding to be able to provide better temporary accommodation, and then also see the national government invest in a lot more affordable housing so we don't have this mess in the first place, because at its heart this comes down to a complete lack of homes in key parts of the country, and that's what's causing this, and often causing the homelessness in the first place.
Mark, Stephen has tweeted, say if you live in a council house in London and can't afford the rent, you have to leave like everybody else. If you're struggling to make your life work financially in the area that you're in, what about just deciding to have a fresh start?
That's absolutely great, but it's not just about where you live. As it was indicated earlier, my daughter is receiving medical care. She's bipolar, and she's under a local authority care, and my other daughter is also having mental health issues, and she is under... Yeah, I couldn't just simply uproot and move.
But could they not get that care elsewhere?
They could, but there's a waiting list. And it's not just, you don't just transfer and it's done. Some of the waiting lists, especially for the mental health section, can be nearly a year. So we can't, you know, just simply
So you're
up
saying
sticks.
you feel trapped. You work, you and your partner both work, but you don't make enough money to effectively live where you live, but you feel you really can't move.
And also my daughter is in her GCSE year, and she doesn't, you know, she's actually, this is the year she should be studying. She doesn't want to be uprooted and moved to wherever and start again, because I'm not even sure it's logistically possible.
Sharon, you obviously have said that you do want to move. Do you feel hopeful that your situation might change?
Not at the moment, no, because with Redbridge they don't even make the effort to contact you to see how you're doing, you know, to ask you an update on your bidding status. They don't make any effort whatsoever.
Do you know where you kind of are in the order of if something comes up?
Well, we bid every Wednesday.
What do they explain how that works?
Bidding is like you go onto the website and they give you a bidding number, and they tell you whether you're eligible for a property or not, and then you bid on that property. And currently we're about 100 and something in the list.
Okay. Roger, I mean, the council, two councils involved here, the Canterbury Council has spoken about the barracks that were bid for by the London Borough, and they're unhappy because they wanted those barracks for their own local needs. They say that not only obviously does it mean that they can't help people who do live locally, but it also will mean greater financial strain on local schools and social care. Where does this stop in the end?
Well, and that's part of the problem, as Mark says. It can be sometimes difficult for families to move outside of London, and then various boroughs, be it their own services or health services, then struggle to accommodate them because they've got their own problems and needs and so on, and own residents that they need to deal with. And sadly, this is getting worse. The number of families with children who were made homeless has gone up 42% in the last 5 years. We're continuing to see it rise, and that will only continue as our housing shortage gets worse. So what I'd really like to see, and we'd like to see at Shelter, is councils just being a bit more sensitive in their treatment of people who are in difficult circumstances. The government to put forward some more money to enable that to happen, but ultimately, particularly for the new government now, to bring forward a significant new programme of house building, and particularly the building of genuinely affordable properties the regular families can afford to rent long-term or to buy, because that's at the heart of this. We've got a massive shortage of homes, and that's the only long-term way we're going to deal with it.
Pat has emailed to say this is a policy which has been used before. In the 1950s, when housing was short, many of my relatives and others from Chelsea were relocated away from the area out to places like Swindon, Basingstoke and other new towns. Whilst they made very good lives for themselves, they were separated from family and friends who couldn't visit often and were deprived of their support. I do have some sympathy for those being moved, especially when boroughs like Kensington and Chelsea are selling off properties gifted for the use of the poor by philanthropists such as the Sutton Trust. I don't believe anyone has the divine right to live in London at public expense.
And I mean, the good thing in the 1950s that we saw there was that the national government was creating new towns out of London. So all those towns that were listed there, and Bracknell, Stevenage, other places, new housing and new towns built to deal with the chronic lack of housing we had at the time, then caused by the Blitz. What we're not seeing at the moment is that new housing being built. So if people are being moved out of London, they're just putting more pressure on housing in that area, which is already under pressure from residents, and people are being moved out further and further, and it's just not a sustainable way to deal with this situation. And that's why the government, and particularly this new government's got a great opportunity to do this, to look at this afresh, to really kickstart our house building and look at options like new towns, and give people the opportunity where they want to take it, like Sharon and others, where they're like, yeah, I'd happily have a fresh start outside of London, provided there is something other than just another hostel to then move to.
And Mark, you're not happy for a fresh start. So no, as far as you're concerned, what, you could stay in this one-bedroom?
No, I mean, I'd be happy to go to Canterbury. I'm happy to go to a permanent residence outside London, but I'm not happy, as was indicated there, to be moved out of borough into another temporary accommodation, because it's like they're shifting the blame to another borough, or they're pushing the problem away. And that
What about the issues that you mentioned before, the care that your children need, the jobs?
that would be difficult. It would be difficult.
But you would do that if you got a permanent new
Yeah, but I wouldn't be happy to do it for a temporary accommodation where I wouldn't know how long I was going to be there for, and what would happen to our family after that. I mean, when Redbridge moved us to Ealing temporarily, they tried to get Ealing to take over our case, and Ealing wanted to put us in Birmingham. We rejected that and actually went back to Redbridge on principle and forced them to house us. And we told them we're not taking temporary accommodation outside the area because I can carry on working, because temporary could be forever. But if you offer me somewhere permanent and they say you can go here for forever if you like, I would bite their hands off and take it.
Thank you all very much, and lots and lots of you getting in touch on this. Leslie has emailed, please don't blame the private landlords for increasing prices. House purchase prices are going up everywhere, and that is pushing up rent. Redbridge Council sent us a statement. Redbridge Council's starting point is always to try to find accommodation locally first. The percentage of our temporary accommodation which is outside of the borough has been increasing as the gap between what can be found locally and what we need has widened. The budget for temporary accommodation was increased by more than £4 million this year from last year. However, it's not just about the cost. The chronic shortage of affordable housing is a London-wide issue.